Hello everyone and welcome to the PBS Terra Disaster Movie Showdown. Now you may know me as the host of PBS Eons, but today I am here to help you get to know the host of PBS Terra. We're going to do that by asking them about their favorite disaster movie and asking them to break down a scene that they love to hate. We asked you, the viewers, to vote on the films, but we didn't tell you who chose what film. Now, the film that won actually won by a landslide, but before we reveal the winners, we're going to talk to each host, reveal who chose what, and what their favorite scene was. Okay, first up, we're going to talk to Arlo, host of Antarctic Extremes and Our Elements, and we're going to listen to his pitch about a franchise that somehow turned into a six-parter. That's right, Sharknado.
So I chose the 2013 smash blockbuster hit documentary Sharknado. As it turns out, during my research, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Considering that tornadoes can actually lift cars up, it's not that crazy for sharks to fall off from the sky. When people think Sharknado, they probably think of that moment in which a shark is falling from the sky and this guy's just running towards it with a chainsaw. And it seems as though the shark just ate the guy. But oh no, he just comes slicing through the other side. So there's so many questions that happen there, right? Would the chainsaw get stuck in there? Doesn't actually have all that oxygen to create combustion in order to keep on going. Can the guy live by being eaten? Can a shark actually eat a person whole? I don't think people appreciate enough that a movie you don't need to take a movie seriously. Like, it's a different type of enjoyment to love a movie for how terrible it is.
My mom always told me Hollywood would kill me.
What a terrible movie.
Nice commentary.
Great shots chosen for that.
Amazing.
So for all the Sharknado haters, which there were some people in the comments going like, how could we choose Sharknado? I mean, you heard it here first. Documentary Sharknado based on some truth, okay? Tornadoes can pick up some heavy boys. However, we didn't really get to talking about, as someone who lives in LA, the fact that we don't have hurricanes or tornadoes. That's more my issue than the sharks falling from the sky. Sharks falling from the sky, yes. Tornadoes in LA? Next up is Maya, our host of Weathered, with a 90s classic, Titanic.
Anything dealing with romance, really, I love. And Scandal, I love as well. And then I started thinking, okay, what is my favorite romance movie? And it's definitely Titanic, and that is a disaster movie. So my scene, and the scene that we all dread in this movie, is the scene when Jack dies. We get to this point where Jack and Rose, they find a decently sized piece of furniture, and it's a door. And they both try to get on this door at first, but it starts to like tip over. And Jack just kind of gives up. Like, he just accepts his fate and lets Rose have the whole door to herself. You just gonna give up at the end. It's just, I don't know. I wouldn't have given up that quickly. But again, the water was so cold. I'm so cold. One of the main effects of hypothermia is its effects on your brain. It causes apathy and impaired judgment. So I guess that is what Jack was dealing with at the time.
It's just gonna take a couple of minutes to get the boats organized.
But one thing I don't understand is how Rose didn't die from hypothermia as well. She was fully submerged in 27-degree water, and she was still drenched when she got on top of the door. And from my research, it only takes 15 minutes to die from hypothermia. And in the movie, it definitely seemed like she was on that door for a hot minute. I don't know, seems kind of far-fetched.
This is crazy.
I know, it doesn't make any sense.
But it's a movie, and they like to dramatize things. And it makes the movie so great. That scene when she finds out that Jack is dead is like, oh, it's just like gut-wrenching. Jack, wake up. Jack. I cry every time I see that scene. Titanic definitely has had a huge impact on my life and what I do today.
Thank you, Maya. You know, I think something that is scarier about disaster movies than a lot of horror movies is, could this really happen? And Titanic is not, could this really happen? Titanic is, this happened. I think maybe now the question to ask is, would this happen again?
On the upside, there won't be any more ice soon, so it won't be a problem.
Whoa.
So we get new disaster movies instead. And now we have Dr. Joe, host of many PBS shows, including Overview here on Terra, with his choice, A Perfect Storm.
All right, so the Perfect Storm is like the quintessential, like 2000s movie cast. George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg, John C. Reilly. Like, what more could you ask for, right? The crew of the Andrea Gale, it's this sword fishing boat. It's like a 70-foot, just like dirty diesel boat that goes out catching swordfish on these long lines. And they are super down on their luck.
I always find the fish. Always.
Problem is, in the meantime, this huge storm, like a once-in-a-century storm, the perfect storm, has come in between them and Gloucester. And in a boat this size, they only have one choice. You gotta ride over these waves.
When I say now, you go full throttle. Got it?
All of a sudden, these moving waves can hit each other in certain patterns and grow into these massive giants. And that seems to be what we're facing here in the climax of The Perfect Storm. We know these storms, like the perfect storm, can happen every 50 to 100 years. But now that we're energizing hurricanes even stronger, that heating oceans are filling them with more and more moisture. Now that we're disrupting the sort of polar cycles and currents, and these strange polar vortexes are pushing down into places that they don't typically do. I mean, are we creating a scenario where perhaps these could happen more often, or if they just happen the same rate they always have, are they going to be stronger? And I think it makes us ask new questions to watch a movie like this based on what we know and are realizing today.
We're gonna get one chance at this. And then we pray.
Okay, so I just recently watched this one for the first time last weekend, and I think the true disaster here was the toxic masculinity that got them to go back on that shit. His friend was like, "Oh, you didn't catch enough fish?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll catch all those fish, even though there's a storm." That was the perfect storm of toxic masculinity. That's why they died. But
Yeah, they're not measuring. Fishermen aren't always measuring their fish. Let's just say that. That's an inappropriate joke.
It is.
finally, we have Trace, host of Animal IQ here on Terra, and he chose the quintessential 2000s disaster movie, The Day After Tomorrow.
This is the movie, not 2012. This is Day After Tomorrow. From the movie's perspective, apparently there has been a drop in solar activity, and thus the planet is getting colder. The point is that they're gonna have to retreat away from cold places.
You have to start thinking about large-scale evacuations right now.
You lost your mind, Hall.
The scientists are right, but the government doesn't listen to them, and that sets up essentially the entire disaster porn that happens afterward. The scene that I hate in Day After Tomorrow, let me set it up for you. New York is flooded from massive tsunamis. The main characters are some kids from Virginia, and they're hiding in the New York Public Library. And somehow a Russian cargo ship has floated down Fifth Avenue and parked itself in front of the library. Then there's a love interest in the film. Emmy Rossum is playing her, and somehow that she has blood poisoning from a leg cut that she's been hiding from everyone for some reason. So the main character, Jake Gyllenhaal, has to go out and save her by getting some penicillin from somewhere, where, of course, the nearby Russian ship that has somehow floated down Fifth Avenue. But that's not all. There's also wolves, and these wolves have found their way from the Central Park Zoo, which somehow, I guess they got out of it because, I don't know, cold. But I didn't actually mention the other thing, which is the supercells of supercooled air that are descending upon the city at the same time that all of this is coming together, and they're freezing everything top to bottom, very conveniently, so you can see it coming. And then they get to the library, and even though it has giant windows that they've been standing in front of this whole whole time, the only thing that stops them from freezing to death is a big old wooden door. I just hate it, because it doesn't make no sense. Ugh. It's very enjoyable trash, but I don't hate the movie. That scene was just like, I got so overwhelmed with the number of things they just kept adding and adding and adding. There's wolves as well, why? And then there's a storm as well, like, oh God. Whew, I'm sweating. Just getting hot. That's the scene that I hate.
Good dramatic sip.
That was fantastic.
I hate that scene too. That's why I don't like disaster movies. It's literally like everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong. That stresses me out.
I mean, another great positive there is the rewilding of America's cities and wolves making their way back into their ancestral homelands. I'm all for it.
Okay, now that we know who chose each movie and why they chose that movie and what scene they hate or love-hate, it's time to see what you all thought was the best disaster movie. The fourth most popular, which is another way of saying the least popular, was Titanic.
That's fine. I don't expect. I don't take any offense to no one voting for my movie.
I will say, I didn't think of it as a disaster movie, but that's just me.
I'll die on that hill. It's a disaster movie. Okay.
Titanic is a metaphor. That's what it is. It itself is just a ship. But we're playing the violins and everything on the deck right now as the world is sinking. I think the audience just wasn't thinking deep enough on this. They had to go that next layer. This is true art. They were warning us.
All right. Third place, Sharknado.
I like it. I would have taken number one, but this is good enough.
Can I tell you the secret? I've never seen Sharknado.
You are missing out on a beautiful thing about this life.
Okay. Second place is A Perfect Storm.
So close.
So close, and yet so far. And finally, in number one place as Best Disaster Movie, with, may I add, a whopping 57% of viewers' votes, is The Day After Tomorrow. Okay, everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you didn't get a chance to vote in the community poll, or if you didn't hear your favorite disaster movie mentioned in this video, leave a comment below. We want to know. Maybe we do this again? I don't know. Maybe you invite me back, PBS Tara. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.
Bye.